Norwich Confidential with your hosts, Dr. Ben Hong, Bonnie Hong, and Mr. Bob Farwell. Good evening, I'm Bonnie Hong, and Ben Hong, Dr. Hong has decided that because we have 3 seats filled with 3 wonderful guests this evening, that he was going to be watching this from home, and sweetheart, if you're not, I'm going to find out. So 2 of our 3 guests are here, and obviously the show is live, so we start on time, and hopefully our 3rd guest will be here shortly. But this is the beginning of our election season. Our election is less than 5 weeks away, and what we are trying to do is make sure that residents in Norwich, our citizens in Norwich, are registered to vote, understand what is at stake in the November election, and get out to vote. There was one year when Ben and I hosted young professionals as part of Rotary's program, and all the young professionals were from Germany. We had as our guest on the show, this was maybe about 8 years ago, but as our guest, we brought one of them on to talk about what he was doing. He was a political science major, and he believes that one day he will be Chancellor of Germany. Mm-hmm. And he appeared on our show the day after a November election in town. The turnout was actually 8%. And when he came on the show, he found that having an 8% voter turnout was absolutely shocking. So I think that if people understand what's at stake, if they really know who the candidates are, what they intend to do, they will get out and vote for those candidates who will be most beneficial for the city. But the first step is obviously knowing how to become registered to vote, where to go to get registered to vote, how to do it, and then where to go and vote. So, introducing my distinguished guests this evening, we have both of our Registrar of Voters, our Democratic Registrar of Voters, Diane Daniels, and our Republican Registrar of Voters, Diane Slopak. Our 3rd guest also has a very key role in our election process, and that's our city clerk, the Norwich City Clerk, Betsy Barrett. So I welcome all of you ladies for being on our show this evening.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for being here. I think that the information you're going to be able to provide tonight is critical to getting people to really understand how important a local election really is.
Absolutely. I mean, people all across this nation should remember, they know this, they've been taught this, but folks literally fought, bled, and died for the right to vote. So how could we, as citizens, as registered voters, do any less than to go out at every opportunity that we're eligible for and cast our votes, make our voices heard?
Right. Okay. So let me start with some very basic questions. Mm-hmm. I'm going to read first, if anyone goes, you all have access to a computer. If you don't at home, obviously our own public library has computers you can use. And if you go on to the Norwich City, the actual official site for the City of Norwich, it will tell you what the mission is of the Registrar of Voters. And their mission is to provide and manage free and impartial primaries and elections, to establish and administer voter registration enrollment procedures, and to maintain and manage accurate voter registration records. So let's start with what are the options when you want to register to vote?
You want to start?
Okay. we have a few options. It's not something you absolutely have to do it this way. You can always come to our office. We're open about 26 hours a week, so we give people plenty of opportunity to come into the office. If we don't happen to be in the office, there are voter registration cards available outside of our door.
Well, they can also just
go
upstairs.
Or they can go to the city clerk upstairs on the 2nd floor. You fill out a card. It's very simple. We put your information into the computer, and the computer generates a letter, which you will get in the mail in a day or two, telling you that you are a registered voter and telling you where to vote. The other way, you can go online. If you are if you have a motor vehicle license or a Connecticut DMV ID, you can go online. It's very simple. govote.ct.gov, and you can do the whole thing online, and it comes automatically to us, and we do the same thing. We enter the information into the computer. It's actually already in there. We accept it, and then the computer generates the letter, and you get the letter. It's very simple.
So if someone comes and they come to you, do they have to register as a Republican if they come to you and you register?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Actually, we are mandated by law to be completely nonpartisan in our office. And Diane and I both try extremely hard to be completely nonpartisan when we are in the office. As most people know, we are chosen by our town committees
Yes.
to run as candidates for registrars of voters. So in that way, we are political, but in the office, we are completely non-political.
Actually, probably, I was going to say, as soon as we walk in the door, the politics kind of get left outside the door. We do not care what party you register with. Our goal is to get people registered, help them be as educated about the process as we can be, and we want them to get out and vote. Because if you're just registered and you just sit on the rolls, but you never go and exercise that right to vote, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're making sure your voice will not be heard.
Then why should they register with a party?
Excuse me. I think that registering with a party helps you make your voice even louder. When candidates go out and start canvassing or start walking, looking for votes, they're going to ask for a list of voters, and they're probably going to ask for a list of people who are in the same party that they are. Those are the places they will focus on. Everybody has limited time. There is a lot of city to cover and only so many days and hours and weeks before the election. So if I, as a Democrat, am going to run for office, I'm going to focus on the other people who are in the same party that I am. The same with Republicans or independents or people who are enrolled in the Green Party.
Right. If I could just make one other statement about that, I think even more important than making sure that the candidates know who they really want to get out to vote for them. To me, what's even more important is that if they are not registered with one of the parties, it prevents them from voting in a primary.
Yes, it does.
We're going to have a very important primary coming up in April. And I think that if we can get people registered today, get them to vote in our November election, it's a little bit easier to get them involved in a primary where their voice is essential. So that's my feeling about the only reason.
It's true.
Yes.
In Connecticut, it's not necessarily the case in every state, but in Connecticut, in order to vote in a primary, you must be registered with the party of that primary.
Correct.
Of course, we expect there will be both Democrat and Republican primaries in November. April 26th of next year. We are having people already register because they want to vote in those primaries.
Yes.
But again, if you don't mind, I'd like to go to the municipal election that we're having this year. It's for our city council, treasurer, and board of education. And voters seem to think that that's not an important election.
Oh, that's so wrong.
That is the most important election because those are the people that set your taxes and your local taxes, your city taxes, the taxes on your home and your car. Those are the ones that affect you the most day to day, and those are the ones that people get the most upset about, so those are the ones that you should vote in.
Right. It's not the 8% that actually vote in our municipal elections that get upset. It's the 92% that didn't vote
You're right.
that are the ones that are complaining the most. So I think you're absolutely right, which is why we think it's so important that people really understand what is at stake in our November election, that we're devoting the next 5 weeks just to the election, to who the candidates are, and to hearing about them. So I think it's great. We can now vote online.
No.
I mean, vote,
Register online.
We can
Online,
register
yes.
online.
Yeah, it makes
I'm
it a lot
hoping-
easier.
I'm hoping for the day when we can actually vote online and have every vote in this country count.
The Secretary of State has that goal in mind.
Really?
I'm not sure how long it will take, probably not within her term, simply because the technology's not there yet, because of security. Security is a big issue.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about who is eligible to vote, to register to vote. You always hear that if you've been arrested, you're no longer eligible to vote, or if you've gone to prison.
That is not true.
Please explain that.
It's important that we make people realize, and hopefully this will clarify it for some people, if you have been to prison, if you have been released from confinement, that means you are no longer in prison, you are eligible to re-register to vote. You do not have to bring anything with you to prove that you've been released. Your presence is enough. So they can register online if they've got access to a computer and a driver's license or a Connecticut state ID, or they can come down to our office. And once they do that, they'll be in our system. They'll get a letter, like Diane said earlier, that tells them they're registered, tells them where their polling place is, and they'll be all set. They should no longer be shy about coming back and registering to vote. They've done their time. They've completed their sentence. Now it's time to get back into civic life, if you will, register and go and vote.
Very good. Now, and you talked about that you are at City Hall. You are there, Monday through Friday?
I'm there Monday and Tuesday 9 to 2 and Wednesday 9 to 12. Diane is there Wednesday 11 to 4.
Roughly 11 to 4, and then on Thursdays from 12 noon to 4, and on Fridays from 9 to 12.
Okay. Do you ever have a Saturday? Are there Saturdays?
Yes.
Yes, we do occasionally have Saturday voter registration, and we'll announce that on the website when they're coming up.
We're mandated to have a Saturday session. I believe that it's 2
Prior
weeks.
to the election?
27th, 28th.
No, that's a Tuesday. It is October. What I'm looking at is our Bible. This is the election calendar. It goes day by day and tells us everything that we should do every day. So that's why I just want to make sure here.
And while Diane's double checking the date, because I will tell you, working with Diane, we're both Diane. So if you call the office and ask for Diane, you will get one of us. And we will help you to the, one of us will be there and we'll help you to the best of our ability. We want to make sure people understand when you do have a Saturday registration session, quite often there are not a lot of people that show up. But we know there are people who work Monday through Friday and can't get into our office during our normal working hours. So if you hear that a Saturday registration session is coming up, please come down, make your face known, get your business taken care of, get it handled, and they'll continue to have those Saturday registration sessions. But if registrars across the state are opening their offices and staffing their offices and no one shows up, then a case could be made for letting go of a Saturday registration session. We don't want that to happen, so if you need us and we're there on a Saturday, please come down.
Okay.
And that's the mandatory Saturday registration is October 17th. And the hours would be 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Okay. So if someone is not registered, they can actually register to be a voter up till when in the November election?
I believe it's 7 days. I think they just changed that law. It's 7 days, either in person or postmarked, 7 days in advance of the election.
Okay.
And
I
they can
thought-
come
But there's a
election day.
special, the day before election, there's a special registration only for people who have turned 18 or in the military or have moved into Norwich since, I believe it's October 27th, which is the 7 days.
Really?
So it's a very limited, and that is from 9 to 5, the day before the election.
Okay.
So if, we also have election day
Yeah.
election day registration, it's called EDR. We really strongly suggest that people come in advance and register, because it's a very complicated process. It takes a long time, and there are lines. You know, Secretary of State's always saying, we need to cut down on the lines. Well, Election Day registration is one of those things that we can't really cut down the line because of the process. It's actually very complicated, it takes a long time. So please, if you want to
Why is
register
it
to vote, come in
complicated?
advance.
Why is it more complicated than a regular registration?
We have to check, our workers have access to the computer system. They have to see if the person is in the computer system. If they are, and they're in another town, then they are required to call the other town's registrar and say, did this person vote today?
Right.
The registrar then has to call the polling location
Right.
and say, did this person vote today?
Right.
And the moderator may be a little too busy to answer right then, so they have approximately 10 or 15 minutes to call back. If they don't call back, then there's a provisional ballot. So, plus before you can actually cast your ballot, you need to fill out a voter registration card.
Right.
So it just takes time.
Right. But I can understand why you would have to check if they're listed, you know, as
Exactly.
as a registered voter in North Stonington or down in Groton or over in Hartford, and all of a sudden they're here saying, well, they just moved here and they need to do the that day of election registration, and you call Hartford to find out, and you find out that they are on the excuse me, but they're registered as a voter in Hartford. You would have to check to see if they voted today,
Exactly.
because they could have voted there and then they're showing up here saying,
Exactly.
okay, I can understand that.
EDR is really supposed to be for those people who absolutely could not get to the office in advance. It's really not supposed to be just because you're, and
In
please
the
excuse
area.
it, too lazy
Right.
to do it in advance. It's really only sort of an emergency situation.
I also know that there are like voter registration cards that I do know they're at a campaign headquarters right now, and they're encouraging people. So you can have the voter registration card, you can fill it out, and do they personally have to bring it to explain how you can just fill out a voter registration
Well, we
card?
do have organizations that run voter registration drives, like the League of Women Voters will do that occasionally. The NAACP's done it at their events. If there's a public event going on, the people who organize that event can come to us and request cards so that they can do on-site voter registration at an event. We were recently at the Taste of Italy doing voter registration at that event. Anytime an organization wants to do on-site event voter registration, they need to contact us ahead of time, preferably about a week ahead of the event, so that we can give them some instruction, give them some supplies, talk to them about their responsibilities, and let them know the deadline for returning the cards, because they only have a specific amount of time to get those
48
cards
hours.
back into us. Yes, it is, because we don't want people hanging on to the cards,
Right.
and then the cards get lost, or they might get damaged, or whatever, and any number of things can happen. You and I know we've got piles of paper in the house, and sometimes we know what the piles are and sometimes we don't. So if an organization wanted to do registration at their event, we're more than happy to have them to do it. Just please give us a heads up, let us know that you want to do that, and we'd be happy to help you.
And if I could add, they could also mail the cards themselves. The cards, most of the cards are about this, yeah, this is what they look like. And on the back, you fold it, you fill it out here, fold it, and then you put the town hall address here.
Can they staple it?
They can staple it, yes.
Okay, or
Most
tape
people
it.
tape it. And it comes directly to us. We put it into the system as soon as we get it. As a matter of fact, I think as of now, we are required to respond within 4 days of receiving the actual card. But Diane and I both respond the day that we get them.
Yes.
Beautiful.
But they also are at social service agencies, state agencies, libraries, motor vehicle. Sometimes you get it in your registration when you register your car. there's one in there also. So most of the state agencies have them available in their office
So there's
that people
absolutely
can take.
no excuse for someone that,
And they, like they said, the League of Women Voters go to the high school also and register.
Well, we do too. We
And
are
you- yep,
required.
they go to the high school and register the 17-year-olds that are going to turn 18, or whoever in high school wants to get registered also.
so both of the Norwich high schools, you go to Norwich Tech?
Yes,
As
ma'am.
well as
Yes.
NFA?
Yes.
We are required to go between January 1st and the end of the school year,
Okay.
and we do that every year.
Speaking of
And
which,
we
if
enjoy
you-
that. We interact with the teenagers, and
that's
it's a
fun.
lot of fun.
Do, when you're there in January through,
We usually go around April.
let's hope you go a little earlier because the primary is in April.
Well, yeah, that's a
And
little different this year.
17-year-olds that are going to turn 18 in October,
They can't vote in the primary.
I heard that they could vote in the primary. That if they are going to be eligible to vote for the president in November, they are allowed to vote in the primary.
I'll have to check on that.
That sounds like something new. We'll definitely check on
That's
that
a
if
check on
that,
I believe that is correct. I believe that, just like in a primary, if they turn 18 before the election, they can vote in that primary.
awesome, okay.
So in April.
But we'll definitely check that
Yeah.
out and get back with you and
Because
let
I
you
was
know
pretty sure that 17-year-olds could vote in the primary if they were going to be 18
before Election Day.
before the
You
election.
could be correct on that.
Yeah.
Just
So I would hope that, maybe this year, you'll get to the high schools before the primary.
we can
so
make an effort to
get
do
those-
that.
So we can get those
Absolutely.
high school.
We
They-
And
they do.
17-year-olds, because I know you're all internet connected.
Yes.
If you are in that class where you're 17 and you will be 18, and you fall into that group of people that will be eligible to vote in the presidential preference primaries, please go online, get registered. If you're not yet eligible, the system will tell you that. If the system takes your registration, you're good to go.
Thank you. Okay. I should say that also tomorrow night is the Celebrate Diversity program that the Norwich Rotary has down at
Yes.
Brown Park. And there will be the League of Women Voters there, registering voters as well. So,
Awesome.
we are very concerned about making sure that not only do we have everyone that is eligible to vote in Norwich registered and ready to vote, but we really want to make sure that they do go out and vote on November 3rd.
Correct.
Bonnie, can I make just one little
Please, yes.
comment? The letters that you get from us, occasionally we may have a typo, we may have put a letter wrong in your name, or maybe your birth date's off by a day or two. If you get the letter and there's something wrong in that letter, please let us know,
call us.
because that can cause you grief when you go to the polls. So we need to know if we've made a mistake. Occasionally, the voter registration cards ask for a driver's license or the last four of your social security. A lot of people only see the driver's license part, and if they don't have a license, they don't fill it out. And that's really unfortunate, because if there's no ID on the card when we get it, then a little star comes up next to your name, and that means you have to show additional ID at the polls. And
But
There-
a social security number will be okay?
Just
the last four of the
digits.
social, yes.
Rather than their driver's license? They
Either
could-
or.
Either or? Okay, so a social security
These are
card
the ID
is also
qualifications.
eligible as the ID? Okay.
Yes.
One other thing I'd like to mention before we move off of getting registered and making sure you are registered, if you need to change any information, if you've moved either from one apartment to another,
Right.
or you've moved from one side of town to the other, please, 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 when you're updating your information every place else, don't forget about us. Make sure we've got your correct information, because a move 2 blocks could change your polling place. And because we don't want our voters to be frustrated by being sent to 3 or 4 different places on election day, please make sure you update your information with us so we can make sure you're getting to the right polling place.
And another thing is, it doesn't apply for this year, but next year, and actually every 2 years, we have 3 state house districts in Norwich. So you may move across the street and you'll be in a different House district. So it's a whole different ballot. So you would have to, vote in a different place than you would normally go.
Right.
And if you don't change it, like Diane said, some people end up going all over the city, and that's unfortunate. We try not to let that happen.
Right.
But it's because people have not told us that they've moved. Sometimes we have issues because women get married or divorced and change their names. That's an issue.
Right.
Simple things. Or if you want to change your party affiliation, you have to do it in advance of the election, of course. Now, for the primaries, if you're unaffiliated, you have, I think, until the day before to change your party affiliation. But if you want to change from one party to the other, it's 3 months.
And it's by day, so it's not just because the primary is April 26th, going back, it doesn't mean that it's January 26th. It's actually 90 days.
Yes.
So we've been telling everyone, you have to change before January 20th, just to be sure.
Absolutely.
So if you want to vote in the Republican primary and you're a Democrat, you have to change your party affiliation by January 20th. If you're a Republican and you want to vote for a particular candidate in the Democratic primary, you have to change your voter affiliation before January 20th.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's go back to where people vote. We have, 6 precincts in Norwich?
We do.
Yes, we do.
And
Would you like to tell
I
us
brought that with us.
where the different
Sure.
polling places are in Norwich?
Number 1 is John Moriarty School. That's precinct 1.
And can you describe physically the general area that is precinct 1?
Okay, that's, I didn't bring a map with me, unfortunately, but that is the northern part of the city. That encompasses, oh, great.
I should have given that.
Yeah, we don't have a color map with us, but
I should have given that to
it's in
my
the northern
crew.
part of the state here.
Right.
I don't know if you
The
can see
city,
that, but,
northern part of the
which is also the 47th House District. Then we have this sort of butterfly thing here. This is Kelly. So you've got Greenville and a good piece of Taffville here. And over here is Huntington School, which is basically Norwich Town. And then down here, we've got Stanton School, and as you can see, that's a big East Great Plains and Cherry Hill and that whole area there. Number 5 is basically the downtown area, CCD, and 6 is on the
St.
other side of
Mark's.
the river. So 1 is
Yeah.
Moriarty School here.
It is St. Mark's. That's where
Yes,
I vote.
the number 5 is St. Mark's Lutheran Church in downtown Norwich. Number 6 is HEPA Apartments, which we are really excited about because it's in the area of a huge population of seniors. So it makes it so much more convenient for
Yes,
those
it does.
seniors to be able to vote now.
Right.
And 4 is Stanton School. So,
And if you weren't able to get a look at the map, as Diane was talking about, as we showed it here on the screen, it's also available on the city website, on the registrar's webpage. You
Right.
can click a link, and it'll show you a very big version of the map.
In color.
I wouldn't
In
try
color.
to print that out if I were you,
I
but
did-
you can
I
pull it
did
up and look
print
at
out,
it.
only
You did.
because
That worked
I-
out pretty good.
Only because I just clicked the little button that said fit to the page.
Aha, there
okay.
you go.
Okay.
But yes, this is how I got the map. I just went on, just so I could get this printed out, to remind people that if they don't know where they're voting, just go to the registrar's page. You can just Google City of Norwich Registrar of Voters, and you'll be brought to a page, and it just says search. And you can just say Registrar of Voters in that search box, and you can just go to the regular registrar's page, and then lots of questions are answered there.
Or you can go norwichct.org/elections.
Okay, directly.
Mhm.
Very good. Okay, so we know what hours people can come down and how they get registered. We know kind of now where they're going to vote, and what your responsibilities are, because part of your responsibilities is also for proper voting machines.
Yes.
How can we be absolutely sure that those voting machines are actually registering my vote?
Good question. Well, the first thing that is done at the polling place is they print out a tape that shows you that the machine started its count at 0. So there were no leftover votes in there, everything's been reset, and the machine is prepared for that day's election. One copy of that is posted on the wall at the polling place. And so you can go and take a look at that. At the end of the night, there'll be another tape printed that will show the results. In addition, we also have a link from our website, off the city website, that will give you a link to a web page where we post the election results as they start coming in. Now there's some pre-work that we do to make sure the machines are all ready to go for each election. Diane, you want to talk
Sure.
about that?
In advance of the election, we get memory cards. They're about that big, and they fit right in a slot in the machine, and they are actually locked into the machine with seals, numbered seals. Those are all recorded, so if anything happens, we know that the seal's been tampered with. They're tested in advance. We have advanced test ballots to make sure that the ballots go properly through the machines, and that's all done a week or two in advance of the election. Then everything's locked. The machine, the memory cards are locked in the machine is locked, it's put into a case, the case is locked, the case is put into our, what we call our election vaults, which are very heavy-duty cabinets. They're also locked. So we have a lot of safeguards to make sure that the machines are well taken care of. A little funny little thing this year, it doesn't happen every year, but this year Diane and I both have family members on the ballot. And because of that, we cannot test the machines, and we can't touch the absentee ballots. So we have our deputies
We'll be
take care of
depending more
those
heavily on our deputies this year.
situations.
Because, and both of us feel this responsibility very keenly, especially when our family members are running for office. We want to make sure we dot every I, we cross every T.
Right.
There's no problems, no perception of impropriety, nothing.
Right.
We take our jobs and the responsibility of our jobs very seriously.
Okay. Now, I always thought, after what happened in Florida with the Chads,
We don't have Chads,
no,
thank
we don't
goodness.
have Chads, but I mean,
Goodness.
there were a number of reports about how the companies that were making the machines also participated in fraud in the voting. One of my concerns was, are the actual paper ballots then kept and stored somewhere?
Absolutely.
Yes, they are.
Are they ever then counted and checked against the machines?
The Secretary of State requires, I believe it's 10% of all polling locations within the state to be automatically recounted.
By paper
It's
ballot?
called audited.
Okay.
And basically, the audit is simply to be sure that the machine counted properly.
Okay. Has there ever been an error?
No.
Okay.
Usually if there are errors, they're human.
No, I mean,
And
once you-
the humans who are actually
Oh,
counting the
counting.
ballots.
Okay, okay. All right. And then, now you just did mention the absentee ballots, which I'm going to now direct these questions to our city clerk, because this is the area that she then begins to have a relationship directly with our registrars. When you think of the city clerk, one of the things you think of is the person that's there at every city council meeting. She is always there, but your responsibilities include much more than just being at city council meetings and making sure that the minutes of the council meetings get recorded and posted. And let me read what is on your website. To serve as custodian and distributor of the city's vital and land record archives. Service the general public with pleasant and professional customer service on a daily basis. Provide and maintain a safe and organized environment for proper record preservation and public access. Continue to partner with the registrar's office and provide ease through the voter registration an absentee ballot process. But that doesn't begin to, to address all of the things that you do.
Correct.
We'll start with the absentee ballot, because that's a fairly easy thing before I get into the meat of what you've had to do this year. But the absentee ballot process, how does that work?
We have an absentee ballot application. You can call our office at 860-823-3732 to get one sent to you. There are 5 reasons that you can get an application or get an absentee ballot. It's either active military or family of a military, absent from town during the voting hours, illness, a physical disability, religious tenets, or you're a poll worker, duties at the polls or primaries or elections. If you meet one of those requirements, call us early.
Early.
Get
That's
the
key.
application. You can go online to the Secretary of State's website, ct.gov//SOTS, and click on, it'll bring the election website up, click on more, and you can get an absentee ballot that way. You can mail it into us. We need a live signature, and get it early.
Ben and I had a personal experience a couple of years ago when we went on vacation, and it was like just maybe 4 days before the election. And then it dawned on us that we did not fill out an absentee ballot. I quickly called. I think we spoke directly to you, Betsy.
We did.
And we were panicked. I mean, this would have been the first election we ever missed. And you quickly got that mailed out. The post office in Hawaii was absolutely wonderful, but if any of you have ever tried to send or receive mail from Hilo, Hawaii, it generally is a week. They did absolutely everything. The city, your office was alerted that mail was coming. It was
Correct.
supposed to have been delivered that Saturday, or that Tuesday, whenever it was, and it didn't ever made it. Or it made it 2 days later.
Yes, the Monday before.
The Monday after or something. Yeah, we did not get it early enough. So if you are really not in the greater 48,
Correct.
you will never get your ballot to your hometown and in the correct hands if you only have 4 days left. That will not happen.
Correct.
If you're not in the lower 48.
And if you have a child or student in school, they can fill them out now, anytime. They can get them to me early. I've already have a pile of them. The absentee ballots actually go out October 2nd. So we have a little bit of time. So I collect them throughout the year. I have people who are permanent disability, and they give us a doctor's note, and they're on a permanent list. So they automatically get it for every election. So there's quite a few ways to get the application into us.
That's a great idea. So they need a doctor's note if they're homebound?
If you're physically disabled, you can get a doctor's note. I need to see the doctor's note, the original doctor's note. I don't need to see the personal information on it.
Right.
But I just have to have proof. They fill out an application. It's kept on file in our office forever.
Right.
And every election
This is
that
how
they
I'm going to
qualify.
tell if Dr. Hong has been listening to this. I told you I'd know whether he was watching tonight.
They'll qualify for a ballot for every election they qualify for.
Okay.
May I clarify that?
Yes.
Keep the list.
At the beginning of each year, in January, we, the registrars, send out a letter to each of the permanent absentee names on the list,
Right.
asking them to verify their residence. And that automatically, when they respond to that, it automatically keeps them on the list. But they have to respond every year.
If they don't respond, there could be a number of reasons,
Then we-
including
right.
they are
No longer
they're
in town,
or
Right.
they're
or they
deceased.
passed.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, we maintain that list, but then we send it to Betsy,
Right.
and then she
Correct.
determines whether or not they will get an absentee
Right.
ballot.
Correct. Good point.
Very good. Okay. Now, the real questions, because this year's ballot not only includes the City Council and the Board of Education, the City Treasurer, it is also going to include 18 referendum questions. Yeah, she's got this. I'm going to let her handle this. But the 18 referendum questions makes the ballot a very large ballot. Betsy, I'm going to turn this over to you so you can explain first what our ballot is going to look like this year.
Okay. This is going to be the ballot. This is what it's going to look like. It's going to have the offices here to vote for. You vote for 6 for councilmen, 1 for treasurer, and 6 for Board of Education, though there's many more people running. There are 4 referendum questions on the same front page. Once you fill out whatever you need to fill out on the front page, you will turn over your ballot, and then there are the other 14 questions on the back side of the ballot. Once you've completed the ballot in the way you want to complete it, you'll put it into the machine, and it'll cast your votes for the
And the machine
questions.
is able to read it front and back.
Correct. Both sides, it'll read it, and we will know what the results.
And you don't have to take it out and turn it over and put
No,
it back in.
it reads
It's
both
just-
sides at the same time,
'Cause-
simultaneously.
And this is one of the things that you've had to do, is prepare the referendum questions.
Correct.
And you told me just before we went live on the air that you just received a copy of what this ballot is going to look like.
Correct.
So, yes, it will be a different color, and it will be, but it will be 2 sides. You have to fill out both sides of this ballot. Now, one of the things the city clerk cannot do is really, after she has written all of this up with some explanation, is discuss it at all. So she was kind enough to bring in the board that is displayed down at City Hall that has all of the 18 questions. And I think we're going to try to get through maybe 9. We may not even have time to do 9 of them.
Do you want me to send the other locations that they're displayed at?
All right, yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Why don't we do that first?
Okay. So they're at the city clerk's office, 100 Broadway, room 215. They're up in the 3rd floor by council chambers as you get off the elevator. They're by the docent's booth on the 1st floor of City Hall. They're in the hallway on the 2nd floor by the city manager's office. We have them at Otis Library at 261 Main Street, the Norwich Police Department at 70 Thames Street. Human Services has a poster and handouts at 80 Broadway, Norwich Recreation Building at 75 Mohegan Park, the Norwich Senior Center at 8 Mahan Drive, the Norwich Public Utilities at 173 North Main Street, and of course the city website, cityofnorwich.org, also has the questions and the explanation and the section of the charter it is taken out of. So we put it in various locations so that everybody who needed a copy could try to get a copy.
It's also online?
It's also online. It's on the website, the city website.
So
Yes.
as we take a look at the one of the larger boards that is at the city clerk's office at the city, I will start just to begin to explain what some of these questions in the referendum that you should be able to vote on November 3rd. The first ballot question is the Registrar of Voters and Justice of the Peace. Has to do with the election of Registrar of Voters and the Justice of the Peace. Shall the charter amendment increasing the term for the Registrar of Voters from 2 to 4 years be approved? The purpose of this proposed amendment is to increase the term from 2 years to 4 years for the Registrar of Voters. The second ballot question has to do with the council, section 2, the officers, and the subsection A, the mayor. And the question is, shall the charter amendment providing that the mayor may attend all state, regional, and national conferences, but is not mandated to do so, be approved? That explanation is the current charter provides the mayor shall attend state, regional, and national conferences. The purpose of this proposed amendment is to amend the paragraph to provide that the mayor is not mandated to attend all state, regional, and national conferences for mayors, but may attend those meetings. Ballot question 3, the council section again having to do with the mayor. Shall the charter amend providing that the mayor be an ex officio non-voting member rather than an ex officio voting member of all commissions and committees created by the city council be approved? The purpose of this proposed amendment is to amend the paragraph to provide that the mayor shall be an ex officio non-voting member of all commissions and committees created by the city council rather than be a voting member. The fourth question has to do with the budget and the scope of the capital budget. Shall the charter amendment requiring that the minimum annual levy for the capital improvement fund of the city be 2% of the general fund from the previous fiscal year rather than the value of 1 mil be approved? The purpose of this amendment is to modify the calculation of the minimum annual levy for the annual capital budget to use the previous year's total general fund expenditure budget as a base rather than the grand list. Under the proposal, the minimum capital budget tax levy would be no less than 2% of the previous year's general fund expenditure budget. I'm going to have to find out whether that means it will be less than we normally put in or more. There's a lot of research that has to be done on these questions, ladies and gentlemen. Ballot question number 5, the budget, the scope of the capital budget. Again, question. Shall the charter amendment provision removing the requirement of the city treasurer to deposit capital improvement funds in a separate bank account until investment be approved? This portion of Section 17 predates governmental fund accounting software systems. Current accounting software systems permit the accounting for revenue and expenditures in several funds, eliminating the need for separate bank accounts for each fund. Ballot number 6, the term and form of bonds and notes. This has to do with borrowing. Shall the charter amendment add language which will make the terms, conditions, and details of a particular issuance of bond and notes subject only to the rules set by the Connecticut General Statute be approved? The current charter language contains terms and details pursuant to which bonds and notes of the city are to be issued. Many of these terms and details are governed by the state of Connecticut in Chapter 109 of the Connecticut General Statute. The proposed amendment would remove the charter terms and conditions and provide that the terms and conditions applicable to the issuance of bonds and notes provided in the Connecticut General Statute shall apply. So I guess that means that only the regulations in the Connecticut General Statute, not the ones that we've previously written. I believe that that's what that means. Question 7, again, is on borrowing, and this again has to do with notes, with bonds and notes, how authorized. Shall the charter amendment to exclude from the $800,000 threshold referendum provision those general obligation bonds for which the City Council and the City of Norwich Public Utilities Commissioners of Water Pollution Control Authority, as applicable, have entered into a payment agreement providing that the Norwich Public Utilities shall pay to the city the debt service on such bonds from utility revenues be approved? This proposed amendment excludes from the $800,000 referendum threshold those utility projects that, so for example, this I'm sure is like the gas lines that were approved in the last bond issue. We wouldn't have to go through the bond, the $800,000 threshold for the bond. because we know they're being repaid by Norwich Public Utilities. I believe that that's what this one is about. I hope somebody just says, Bonnie, shut up if I'm wrong. Financial administration is question number 8. This has to do with our controller. Shall the charter amendment eliminating the timing requirements that financial statements be submitted by the controller at the first regular meeting of the City Council each month be approved? The current charter language requires that the controller submit financial information from the previous month by the first regular City Council meeting. The proposed language retains the requirement that the controller provide the financial information to the city manager and City Council, but removes the deadline of the first regular meeting in each month. And question number 9, the financial administration, the collection of taxes. Shall the charter amendment eliminating the provision that allows for a possible discount on taxes if all installments of tax liability are paid on or before the first business day in August be approved? The current charter language allows the City Council, through the budget approval process, to provide up to a 2% discount on property taxes for taxpayers who pay both installments by August 1st. The proposed language removes the option to approve such discounts. And I believe that would just make it automatic. Let me reread this. I think that that would make that automatic. The discount is just completely eliminated. So it's eliminating any discount if we all pay our taxes by August 1st. Okay. We can only do the first 9. We're going to discuss the last 9 of those referendum questions. I believe it's on the 14th of October when we have as our guest, hopefully, the candidates for city treasurer. What I would absolutely recommend, there's a lot of research to be done so that we understand what each of those referendum questions are. And since there are 18 of them, considering when I read through them, I was even getting them wrong as I read them, you really want to understand what each one of those questions mean and how you feel about them. They're going to affect, obviously, as you heard, the budget, our taxes, how the City Council and the mayor function in their roles, whether or not our registrar of voters are there for 2 years or for 4 years. They're very important questions. So you really want to be able to understand what you're voting for on November 3rd. Is there any, we only have about 5 minutes left. So are there any points that I
to go over that.
did not get through?
So can I just say something?
Please, yes.
This is a handout that's at all the places that I previously mentioned. You can take this home and write on it and decide what your questions, your answers can be, and you can bring this to the polls with you. So you're not at the polls going, what did I want to vote on that question or issue? So the question is there.
Like this paper.
They're at all those places I listed. There's those handouts. So you can take it with you, take it home, study it, look at it, and
then
bring it
write
to the
on
poll
it.
and write on it if you'd like to.
Okay. So you can pick this up. And again, do you want to just rename a few of them?
Absolutely.
There's multiple places at City
There's
Hall.
4 places at City Hall, the library, the police department, human services, the recreation building, the senior center, public works, and it's on the website.
Okay. So I really do recommend that you pick this up somewhere. And because you can write on it and bring it into the voting booth when you vote, so that you do have an idea, if you've studied it, you know what you want, how you wanted to vote, and you're going to be able to have a cheat sheet when you go into the booth.
Right, and just remember, you have to mark your answers on the ballot.
Right.
That is not a ballot.
Right. That's an important point.
Correct.
Okay. And I'm going to just read something that Diane handed to me, and it's do you want to read this?
Sure.
You can read it.
This is called The History of One Vote. So often, people come to us and say, why should I register to vote? My vote doesn't mean anything. It's absolutely not true. Your vote means everything. we have a history of one vote here. In 1800, Thomas Jefferson was elected the third president of the United States by one vote. In 1845, 1850, and 1859, Texas, California, and Oregon were admitted to the Union. Each gained statehood by a margin of one vote. Richard Nixon would have defeated John Kennedy in 1960 had only one more vote been collected in precincts in Illinois, New Jersey, Missouri, and Texas. In 1994, in the 2nd Congressional Connecticut District, it was won by 2 votes. So one vote can change history.
And it makes
And it could be your vote.
It does make a difference. One of the things I do want to remind you, next week, we are beginning with the candidates. We will have the Democratic Board of Education candidates here with us in the studio. They will answer not just my questions, but you are free to call in and ask them any question that you would like. I think that since a very large portion of our budget is devoted to the Board of Education, I think that it's very important that you know who you are voting for, how they view their role on the Board of Education, what they intend to do, and where they're going to bring our school systems. So please, for the next 2 weeks, it will be first the Democratic candidates, and then that's on September 30th, and then on October 7th, we will have all of the Republican candidates for the Board of Education. I really hope you will tune in, listen to what they have to say, call in with your questions, make sure that you get registered to vote, and then get out to vote on November 3rd. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much for having us.
Bonnie.
Our Registrar of Voters, Diane Daniels, Diane Slopak, and our City Clerk, Betsy Barrett.
Thank you very
much.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you next week. This is Norwich Confidential.